This is Joe narrating a PowerPoint in science. It's from the unit on Earth and Space Science. It's lesson 3 called Weather and Climate. It's on page 532 of the Kaplan book. The key ideas are that weather and climate are different. Weather is the day-to-day change and climate is the average long-term weather conditions in a region. The sun heats the Earth unevenly, and it's this uneven heating of the Earth that drives the movement of the wind and the ocean currents. Our daily weather is caused by the movement of air masses, and we count on our meteorologists to keep us posted on these changes. So one of these is weather and one of these is climate, showing the continent of Africa. On the left you see the weather patterns. It's hard to read that, but basically some regions of Africa are on average very hot and wet, and some areas of Africa are very hot and dry. For example, in northern Africa you have the Sahara Desert, which is hot and dry. On the right you see the weather for a certain day in Africa. So the weather is the day-to-day change, the climate is the long-term trends in temperature and moisture. The sun heats the Earth unevenly. The areas at the equator are warmer, the areas at the poles are colder. As the equatorial atmosphere or air at the equator is heated, it rises, it moves upwards and is replaced by air from the cooler areas to the north or south. And because the Earth is rotating, this moving air acquires a prevailing direction. For example, if you look at this map in North America where Philadelphia is, you'll see that the air movement is mostly from the west. So we say that our prevailing wind in middle part of North America is from the west. Likewise, ocean currents are driven by uneven heating of the Earth's surface, and also by the fact that warm air rises and cold air sinks, just like warm air rises and cold air sinks. So here's the prevailing ocean currents. You can look and see between Europe and North America, the prevailing current towards Florida is from east to west, and as you move north, the Gulf Stream takes boats along the North American coast towards the east. Explorers of America from Europe use these currents and prevailing winds to find favorable routes to get to the United States and favorable routes back. Our daily weather is caused by the movement of air masses called fronts. An air mass is rather large, extending over possibly hundreds of miles. For example, in this slide you see a cold air mass on the left moving towards a warm air mass on the right. Cold air is more dense, stays towards the surface of the Earth. Warm air is less dense and will rise over the cold air mass. As warm air rises, it cools itself, and cooler air cannot hold as much water vapor, and the water will come out of the air as precipitation, in this case rain. Here's another type of front called a warm front on the left. Here a warm front is rising gradually over a cool air mass, giving moderate precipitation or rain. On top they give symbols for the different types of clouds. Meteorologists can look at these cloud formations and predict the duration of the weather patterns. An occluded front is when a cold front catches up with a warm front and the two weather systems merge. Clouds and precipitation are characteristic of all fronts, this occluded front just tends to stay in one place longer. So again, the cold air moves in, the warm air rises, cloud formation occurs due to the water vapor coming out of the air, and precipitation may fall. Here are the symbols for the different types of front. On the left you see the blue triangles that mark a cold front moving from left to right, and on the right you see the red semicircles that mark a warm front, again moving from left to right. You will see these on weather maps on the news. Precipitation is just the falling of water out of the skies. It can be either in the form of rain or snow. Sleet is just tiny particles of ice falling out of the sky, and hail is larger bodies of ice falling out of the sky. These can become golf ball sized or even larger and do extensive damage under the right conditions. Meteorologists are scientists who study weather patterns. Some of them are on the news. This map shows Mexico on the left, Florida on the right. This is a massive weather phenomenon. It's called a hurricane. You can see that it's spinning here counterclockwise. You can see the eye of the hurricane in the center of the hurricane. That's where it's relatively calm. So a hurricane like this is similar to the one that hit New Orleans, Hurricane Katrina, and did extensive damage. A more localized spinning pattern can cause a tornado. These are very discrete and might only be a half a mile wide or even smaller as they touch down on Earth. I don't often give advice in PowerPoints, but if I were these people, I would be moving away from that tornado. That's it for page 532 in Earth and Space Science.